Hi, everyone. I'm Avi. I'm co-founder at Sprouts. We are an AI-powered GTM intelligence platform which help companies to ramp up their demand generation efforts. Along with me, I have Dan, who is co-founder of First Tracks Advisor. He has 20 plus years of experience in building GTM teams, global GTM teams across US and Europe. Today, we are going to talk about exploring GTM dynamics for accelerated growth. Super excited to have you, Dan. Thank you for taking time and talking to us.
Thank you, Abby. I appreciate you having me join you today.
Awesome. So Dan, I know a lot about you and super excited to talk about that, but would love to know in your words, what has been your journey in GTM so far?
So after working for large companies in the media space, selling digital advertising a long time ago,
Okay.
I got into my first startup and just found it to be so fascinating. My comfort zone is being outside of my comfort zone. So being in a world of volatility and creating it as you go, building the business as you go, I enjoy that. Some people don't like that at all, but I like it. And the journey has been going from startup to startup, mostly fixing what's been broken by a model that is here in the United States, candidly speaking, the venture model, the venture capitalists have an agenda to succeed very rapidly, and a founder just wants to succeed. There's no time frame on when that person wants to exit, if that's their plan. And so sometimes those models don't agree with one another, those different philosophies. So as a result, an investor might ask the tech startup, go fast, real fast.
Got it.
And sometimes that speed can be reckless.
Yes.
And the hiring of the wrong people, the moving too quickly, creates big problems. So I'm the guy that gets brought in to fix it. And I've done 10 of them over the years. My goal is to turn them around so that they can exit. Some of them haven't actually been dysfunctional turnarounds. They've been fortunate enough where the founder is able to get some money enough to scale and calls me in and says, I don't want to do it wrong. I want to do it right. Can you do it with me? I'd like to hire you as CRO. So I'm a CRO for tech startups. These are typically A stage to B stage, and then take them as fast as we can. So I usually get in around the single digit millions, sometimes in the tens of millions, and just take them to the next level and make them go as big as I can at the right speed.
Got it. Got it. Loved it. Thanks, Dan. I think I was talking to someone and someone said, right, always focus on speed, but don't be reckless, right? So I think that is something even you echo that. So zooming out a bit, Dan, and coming to go to market part, right? Because this is where we would really like to learn from you in terms of your go to market journey. Uh, like I have a couple of questions and eager to learn
Sure.
what you have to say. The first one being is you talked about the model part. The first one is how would you recommend B2B companies to map their customer journey and their GTM strategy? Right. The first part of is that, and the second part is how does that influence customer acquisition and retention?
Good question.
So
So first of all, you need to recognize a founder, company needs to recognize that customer journey is critical. It is very, very important. Now, the dev side of the house will say, without a product, you'll have nothing to sell. But
yeah,
the revenue side of the house says, well, without the money, you have nothing to build. You have no ability to build it. Both are right.
yeah,
What I do is I focus on making sure that the end result is a customer that's so delighted that they don't want to leave. They're always receiving more than they expected. Okay?
hmm,
Under promise, over deliver, not the other way around. So the way I do that is, and it's all logical. So when you guys all hear what I'm going to say, you're going to say, of course, yeah, that makes sense. There's nothing rocket science about this. First, I would map out what an awesome journey looks like at
okay,
every single touch point on every device.
Okay.
Then I'd map out from an operation standpoint a process, and I'd literally build out that journey so that it actually works within your organization. And the way you do that is on a regular basis, perhaps as the founder of the company, pretend you're a customer, or get one of your friends to pretend that they're a customer and go through that journey. Don't tell your sales team, don't tell your marketing team what you're doing, and go through that journey and see what it's like. See what it's like to deal with your sellers. See what it's like to receive your messaging through marketing. Do you feel like you're being spammed? Do you feel like every time you read a newsletter from that company, is it valuable? Did I get something informative that's going to help me? And you can map that journey. You can follow it all the way through. Once a quarter, I make it a point to have one of my buddies go through the journey. My sales rep will come in and say, Dan, I got this great deal opportunity. I literally put deals in the pipeline that the team doesn't know are fake, because I want to make sure that my journey is the right journey. I know that sounds a little radical, but it works. What that'll help you realize is, where are the cracks in the foundation? Where are the problems? Where can you do better? So that's something that has worked for me really, really well. Now, value. So it's no secret, customers buy for two reasons, B2B, for two reasons.
Okay.
Lower cost, increase revenue, period. At the end of the day, that's what people care about. So what you need to prove is quantitatively as well as qualitatively what value is, are you bringing to your customer? And you need to show the customer the value that they're getting. And so if you can do that, and that's part of customer success team, they can constantly show the customer a before and after, an A, a B, anything that says, here's how much we move the needle for you, for the things that matter to you. It's important to know that, what matters to you, and then show them how we're delivering. And if you do a good job of that, why would the customer leave? You're showing them value.
Absolutely.
And then the last piece is, sure, you can all say this. This is just a bunch of talk the talk all day long. You got to walk the walk. Training and development. Every single person on your team that's touching the customer needs to be highly trained and do a fantastic job of making sure that the customer is receiving value and is always delighted.
Absolutely.
So that's typically how I think about it. But I think, again, most important, go through your own journey. Don't let your team know what you're doing. Go through it and see how it is. You're going to be shocked. It also tells you how different people handle things. You might need some discipline or some training for individual people. You might find that some people have to leave because they're not doing the job well.
Got it. Yeah. This is really, really helpful, Dan. Then the last piece, right, which you talked about, is training, right? Yeah. Can you give us some examples, like how you used to, curate those training models for your team members so that they can do a better job while talking to customers? Can you give some examples of that? Because what I have seen is, Dan, training is something which people usually do not emphasize a lot on, and that's really, really important to be a very good, customer facing role person. So if you can just give us a couple of examples and a module which you used to follow, which was successful, that will help every one of us.
I'm gonna almost change your question a little bit, because I'm going to go back to the root of it. The root of it is people. Okay. A company's number one asset. And you can tell me, oh, it's my IP. Well, it's very hard to patent, especially internationally patent software. Very hard. Your people are your most important asset. Okay. Hire for skill. You can always train somebody who's, great at speaking about an industry. You can always train somebody how to handle a customer service issue, but you can't train for skill and intelligence. So go that route. Training and development, I found there's no wrong answer unless you find that it's not working. As long as you're investing, look, if you can get an info dev type of person in the company to help organize your information, and then you can get some professional training, do it. always have a line item in your budget for training and development of your people. And it matters more so when you get to a certain point, past ICP and maybe even past an A stage. And I'll share that a little bit more as we get into the conversation. What I found is, as you grow, you're going to hear me today. You're going to hear me talk about the starter crew. So as you grow, your starter crew of people, those are the people that get you up, out of the nest and out into the marketplace. They figured it out. So when you hire for scale, those starter crew individuals become your trainers because they figured it out, and they know it so well because they're the ones that have been doing it for a while. So pair up a senior rep, a senior marketing person with a junior marketing person. And now the reason I do that, and it's like these little pod systems or structures where I've got a senior seller, I've got a junior seller, I've got a customer success person. You can even bring a solutions engineer into that little team pod. And the pod structure I like. It's not for everyone, but the idea there is that junior seller now gets to learn from the senior seller. That senior seller now gets to become a manager.
Got it.
That customer service person knows because they're on the team, that customer service person knows the accounts, knows the sellers. They all start working together as a team really well. And the solutions engineer is teaching everybody how the product actually works. So you get product training in there as well, right?
Got it. Yeah.
The days of go figure it out, that's not going to work. Absolutely. So that's one example that I've used that works well, but there are others.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dan. This is pretty helpful. I think to start with, we would like to implement this on Sprouts itself, right? Like pairing up people so that they have this cross-functional knowledge and they can learn quicker. Cool. Moving on, Dan, right? Like I was just going through your LinkedIn bio, and you talked about you have done 3 successful IPOs and acquisitions. What would be some of your key learnings that have stayed with you, right? I know that you have traveled this journey of 0 to 1, 1 to 10, and 10 to 100 million, right? And there are different learnings at each and every stage, right? So what have been those? And the other part is, what are those common factors for these 5 entities which you have worked for? Were they good at culture? Were they good at hiring right people? Or the technology was like amazing? What was that? So would love to understand from your learnings.
Yeah. So 2 questions in there. One is, what are the most important aspects of building a startup culture and getting out to market? And then the other question is, what have you seen to be successful for you? So you're going to hear me say a lot of the same things over and over again, and it's on purpose. Number 1, people. Go hire the best people. Number 2, simplify. I'm gonna play around with this a little bit. Simplification is critical. When was the last time someone came up to you in perhaps a social or a business environment and said something that you don't understand, and you said, "I don't get it"? We just nod our head and say, "Okay, yeah," and then we move on.
Yes.
Think about your sales reps going out and communicating such difficult technical jargon.
Yeah.
Now, if you've got an engineering-centric founder, that jargon, that speak rolls right off their tongue like nothing, and they understand it. But if your audience is a business person, they don't necessarily understand it, especially now that we're getting into all this Gen AI stuff. That stuff is complicated. People don't raise their hand and say, "I don't know," because we feel stupid when we do that. So we don't say anything. And then guess what? You don't get the sale. So simplification is critical. The third, create process. You got to create some structure and some process. However, you got to draw the line between creating process and overcomplicating. Because I just said, simplify your message, simplify your process, simplify how your product works, try to simplify how your product gets stood up at the client so they can get it running and start using it. And then the next piece, again, back to people, is empowerment. Empower your people to make decisions. Create process that says, as a marketing person, as a sales rep, as an employee, I can make a decision up to this point. Then I have to go get approval.
Got it. Yeah.
That next is allow them to fail. Create a culture where failure is natural.
Got it.
If you make a person feel terrible every time they fail, they're not going to push the envelope. You're going to stifle creativity. Give everybody the license to make mistakes. Now, of course, we all know you make mistakes. Let's do a debrief. Let's talk about what happened here. Why did we fail? What would we do better next time? Fail fast and learn. And then the last, document everything and organize your documentation. I talked about information development before. If you have the ability to have an info dev person or somebody who maybe in operations, that's their job. And I know in early stage startups, we don't have, a room tire, all sorts of people, but think about how many times somebody asked for, how do I do this? How do I do that? Does anybody have a proposal that I can use? And we say, yeah, we knew where it was, but I can't find it. And you waste all this time trying to look for it. And then you end up building it all over from scratch again. As you go organize, and we have Google Docs, and it's almost free. So it's very easy to organize your information like that, but there's lots of software out there that you can use to organize all your content, your information, so that you don't have to always dig through and look for things for hours that you've done before. Because capturing those best practices and those failures is really important. So those are the factors that I have found were very, very important to me along the way.
Got it. Love the learn fast, fail fast and learn fast piece and documentation. Because personally, Dan, I'm also a big believer of document everything, because that gives a lot of clarity. And I think Amazon as a company has done great work for. I have many friends in Amazon, and whenever I talk to them, they say that for every meeting they walk into, they have a one pager created, and that is floated with everyone, so that everyone is clear in terms of why they are attending that meeting and what is the agenda. So that gives a lot of clarity.
Yeah, you're right, Avi. There's been articles, lots of them on Bezos, and how he demands that you have a brief before your meeting. That brief is sent out ahead of time, and everyone must read it so that the meeting could be as short and as efficient as possible.
Got it.
He's done something right. So take a page out of his playbook.
Absolutely. Great. Thanks, Dan. These were really pointers, and I'm going to reflect upon it for sure, right? In terms of if we are following all of this. My next question, Dan, to you is: you have been an active contributor for many companies in B2B domain, right? How would you recommend a B2B company which is active in the market, acquiring customers and all, how they should fare against competition, right? And especially if they are the market is enterprise market, or they are playing in enterprise category of segment. So how to beat competition, how to do that competitor analysis, and how to really fare against a competitor, especially in the enterprise category.
Yeah, there's a lot to that question. So being in the software space, we all know that sometimes we are competing against hundreds, but there's always a few that we're competing against that we put on our chart, and we show, here's all our features, and we put check marks next to every single thing that of all those features for us, and then we put some check marks next to everybody else. And guess what? They've got the same chart, and they've got check marks next to everything for them, and only a few for you. You know what I'm talking about? Those ridiculous charts. Well, I think the key here is it goes back to the concept of mediocrity. Okay. So when I was a kid, a gentleman who I was friends, he's a family friend of ours. He was a blind guy, and he was the most amazing networker ever.
Oh,
And I was hanging out with him one day. I had just bought a car, and or I was in the market for a new car, and I said to him, yeah, I'm thinking about getting a car. And he said, oh, go see so-and-so over at the dealership and he'll sell you a car. That's the guy to see. And I'll call him and I'll tell him that you're coming. And so I did, and I had a bad experience.
oh,
He picked up the phone and he tore them a new one, because when he sends people to them, he wants to make sure they get experience. Now, I mentioned a great experience before. And then he said something to me that I'll never forget. And I want you guys to all think about this. And if you want to tweet it, exit, feel free.
Okay.
Don't expect perfection from a world of mediocrity, is what he
Got
said
it.
to me. I carried that with me my whole life. Don't expect perfection from a world of mediocrity. And what he was saying is, yeah, the world's a pretty mediocre place. At least here in the U.S. it is. I don't know in India if it's expected that the service that you get is going to be phenomenal, because here in the U.S. it's terrible.
I think it's everywhere the same. Yeah.
Yep. So if you think about it, all you got to do is be a little better than mediocre, and you're already ahead of the pack. So how do you be a little bit better than mediocre? Goes back to train your people, get the best people, make sure you have the right product, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the first piece.
Yep.
Second piece is differentiation.
Okay.
We all know, hey, what's your differential advantage? Oh, our differential advantage is X. And that differential advantage is usually communicated as a feature. And we'll talk about this a little bit more in the session. But that feature speak will kill you. It's got to be solutions oriented, and you want to make sure that your differentiation is very clear, very easy to understand, and you need to prove it. You need to show other customers where your differentiation really came out or comes out, because new customers they're looking at lots of different products, lots of different solutions, and you got to be different. And then again, make sure that journey is so buttoned up that the customer can't not buy you, because buying you means that they're not going to be able to continue this journey. And I will tell you, we all know this. The way you're taken through the sales process is a reflection of how it's going to feel and be after you're a customer for years and years. Okay. If the sales process was poor, so is working with this company for the next 2, 3, or 4 years. It's going to be terrible. So you got to get it buttoned up. And again, it's operations. A lot of tech startups, they get going, but they don't have a COO. And I think a COO is one of the most critical components or roles of a startup. Usually the founder says, yeah, I'll be COO. But it's very important that you focus on your operation. And again, that customer journey and differentiation. So a little bit of a long answer, but we could talk about that one all day long, Bobby.
Yeah. No, great. This is great. Actually, I'm reflecting upon what you talked about, right? Like many, I personally feel this, Dan, right? Like many companies ignore operations as a function. I think that's very important to get things going and keep everything intact and stitched. This is a very good takeaway. Follow on to that, Dan, right? Like I had one question on, and this is like the most important one from all of us is in one of your posts you also mentioned about ICP. A founder figuring out their ICP after building a product is like hammer searching for a nail. So, how does a new company define their ICP at start, and how often should they redefine it? Right. So the first part is how should they do, and how frequently should they do this activity?
So, look, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it was very expensive to test the marketplace to find out whether or not it wants to pay you real money for whatever it is you're offering. And you'd have to build a prototype and go out to market with it and hand it to people and say, here you go. Or, give them your software and say, here, try this.
Yep.
But now it's so much easier because we have all this technology that can reach out to the marketplace and ask questions. as simple as let me send out, you can do it on LinkedIn, you can do it on any of the social media platforms. Let me go buy an ad campaign to reach 10,000 people and ask the following questions to a very specific audience that you think are the right people to buy the product that you are soon to be building. If I built X, Y, and Z that solved this problem, which it looks like a big part of the market, perhaps you have, would you pay money for it?
Got it.
You ask that question to 10,000 people, get 100 answers, get 100 good answers. Maybe try it to, and all this is exploration, and maybe try it to 4 or 5 different markets that you think are the right markets. Maybe, pick a few verticals, pick a few titles. Maybe you sell stuff to chief product officers, chief marketing officers, COOs. It's very easy to go spend some money and reach those people and get some feedback.
Yep.
Once you get that feedback, that becomes your pipeline, because the people that said, absolutely, I would buy this if you built it. That's a huge problem for us over here at ABC Company. Yes, I like that. Great. I'll put you on the list. When this product goes into beta, you're going to get it to try it for free for 6 months, whatever it may be. There's your pipeline. Just like that, you built a pipeline. Listen, you're going to be hearing a lot of different opinions. That's why the more you reach out to, the better. Now, you can do this before you sink millions into a new product. So go do that. How often, Avi? I'd say there's no answer to that. It's always. You have your core ICP that you're calling on. And if you have a very large total addressable market or sellable addressable market, TAM and SAM, then you don't need to go anywhere else if it's working. But if your TAM and SAM are smaller, you need to start exploring other verticals where you might be able to generate more revenue. So whatever's working, do it for as long as you can, and then constantly dip your toe in the water in other areas. And the frequency on that is always. Maybe say 20 or 25% of my sales effort, my go-to-market effort is going to be towards looking looking for new markets to explore, because you can also adjust the product. You might find a new product extension that you could sell to a whole different universe of people. So.
Got it. And a follow-on to that, Dan, right? So one part is like a use case exploration where let's say if I'm getting into a certain category of industry or a sector, there are certain use cases which my product or my company can solve for.
Yep.
How do you think that it is different than ICP? For example, this sector of companies really would be my buyer is an ICP, and use cases is we are solving a bit of their pain point. So how do you differentiate between that?
Wow, I've never been asked that question. That's a great one. I'm going to write about that. You don't mind, do you? So how do you differentiate your ICP from the use cases?
Yeah.
You know what a lot of companies are doing? They're aligning their use cases with their verticals. So for example, if I sell SaaS to let me pick one, the medical devices industry, the use case there might be very specific, this is their use case. But my same technology can help insurance companies with a similar problem. I think what's important is to recognize that even though it's the same product, your ICP could be your use case based on individual verticals. I don't know if I communicated that clearly, but
that's clear.
In my last company, we sold documentation, technical document organization and management and publishing content. Every company has content, whether you're in medical devices or insurance. And we had customers across lots and lots of them. And so the ICP was anybody who is interested in improving how they manage all their internal documentation.
Got it.
But that could be in medical devices, insurance, it could be in B2B SaaS, it could be in government, it could be anywhere.
Got it. No, that helps, Dan. This is this gives a lot of clarity in terms of use case versus ICP. One last question, Dan, and I think we are at the end of
Yep.
our live, and very popular one is generative AI is talk of the town and
Yes.
boomed in 2023. And now most of the companies use AI, and it is been a latest buzzword, as we all know,
Yep.
right? How do you recommend incorporating AI in one's GTM motion, and any company which is into a B2B space, how is that helpful?
Yeah. So look, AI has been proven to reduce the amount of work it takes for people that spend hours and hours doing tasks, and they can now do it in minutes. It's a pretty strong brain. We all know that. Some of the companies, many of the companies that are launching today, these days, are AI companies, and a lot of them won't be around in a year. As we're exploring, we are in, as we say here in the US, the Wild West. It
Okay.
is crazy. I went to a couple of events over the last few weeks. Last night, in fact, was one, and it's all everybody's talking about. I've got two thoughts to this. Number one,
Okay.
find somebody in your organization that really understands it from a go-to-market standpoint, and
Mm-hmm.
have that person be appointed the scout, the person who is going to constantly look for areas of improvement and efficiency, productivity and efficiency using various AI tools, and
Okay.
just keep exploring because it's changing every minute.
Got it.
Number one. Number two, maybe it's the same person. Somebody on the product team needs to constantly be thinking about how AI can be included in your product.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're going to wake up one morning and you're going to find that you have a new competitor who's using AI to solve what you solve, and they can do it faster, they can do it better, and they can do it way cheaper for the end user, and you're going to lose all your customers. So you got to get in the parade. You got to be marching down the road in the parade. Otherwise, you're going to get lost. So, and it's all about expertise. So I think that's a very important position in an organization today, no matter how big or small you are.
Got it. Got it. So all the product folks out there who are part of this
Yeah.
live, I hope you got uh, the gist of how important the AI is. Cool. With that, Dan, thank you. Thank you so much for taking our time and speaking with us. We would really like to, invite you once again, maybe pretty soon. Love the conversation and the insights, Dan.
I
Thank
wish
you
we
so
had more time. This is
much.
fun. This is fun for me. I'm passionate about what I do. Thank you, Avi. It was super nice to spend some time talking to you, and thanks for everybody for tuning in. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.